Hello guys, this is Keys to the Truth. And in this video, we are going to talk about how to stop a star from forming. You heard me correctly. How to stop a star from forming. And I will have to probably break down the subject of the over the course of more than one video. So make sure that you check out all the rest of the parts. And the prelude or the prequel to this video was the one I made recently called How to Turn People into Stone. So if you haven't seen that one, make sure you watch it first and then come back here. So, anyway, this is part story, part make believe, part just me sharing my personal experience, anecdotal evidence, nothing more. Or is it? Could it possibly hold some truth? Will you be the judge of that? Okay, so I will present the information, I'll present the threads, and feel free to pull on these threads or not and go down the rabbit hole, if you will. I'm not here to give you any sort of recommendations or advice or to prove anything to you because I really don't have anything to prove to you. That's your job. And the moment you relinquish that power and dominion that you have of proving things to yourself is when evil creeps in. That's one of the reasons that we're overloaded with lies, right and left. We have all this mainstream media and alt media dedicated solely to inundating you with lies, to delude you, to cloud your perception, to lower your consciousness of the absolute, of the truth. So be aware, guys. Check out the threads I present to you and feel free to investigate further. I've had people tell me privately or publicly, hey, you failed to prove this or you didn't prove that. I didn't fail at jack, okay? And it's not my job to prove anything to you. That's your job. I repeat myself, okay? I'm just presenting my research and you do what you want with it, okay? If you see something in there, go ahead and keep researching it. This is just a foundational step. This is just an intermediary or beginning step for you to take off from, okay, and build upon. I've said it many times before, this is not a be all end all in any way, shape, or form. So, anyway, down to brass tacks and on the subject, we're going to talk a lot about calcium, alrighty? So, let's get started. Calcium is an essential micronutrient in plants, okay? It forms the cell walls, the cell membranes. It's one of the primary components of plant life and animal life. There's no two kingdoms. That's one of the first lies they tell you when you're a kid. There's the animal kingdom and the plant kingdom. We're one and the same. But that's a subject for a different video. Different plants are going to have different percentages. Soil could be 60 to 70% calcium, okay? And for example, limestone is, more than 50% calcium. It's very high in calcium content. So is the ocean. So calcium's pretty much everywhere. Calcium makes up, most of our bones and teeth. It's also found on our epidermis, so it makes up some of your skin and provides some of the coloration. We also have a lot of calcium in trees, in wood. It's a big component of wood. Okay, for example, when you have wood ash left over from after the fire, so you're taking off the humidity and a bunch of other stuff, calcium is going to be around 20% of the content of that burned ash, that burned wood. It's really, and there's, you're going to get some potassium, but there's a lot of calcium in there. That's why it's called calcination, the process of burning something down to the ashes, to the white. The white stuff, the white gives it away because calcium is white. That's why some of the ash is white. Okay? So, calcium's everywhere. Seawater, 400 parts per million. That's pretty high. Alrighty? Beef. If you're eating beef, I don't eat meat. I don't need you to not eat meat. You go ahead and eat whatever you want. I'm not going to get into that subject right now. That's for a different video. But if you feel the need to do so, that's your decision, okay? But it's loaded with calcium, all right? Different meats have different percentages of calcium. They all have calcium. Chicken, 6% of the daily value. 21 milligrams of calcium. Beef's going to have calcium. It's part of the makeup of the tissue. Calcium gives rigidity and gives a lot of other properties that I'm not going to necessarily get into, right? So what I'm showing you here is that whatever you eat, you're going to eat a certain amount of calcium, all right? So we go to the big question then, if there's calcium pretty much in anything I eat, if I'm a meat eater or a vegetarian or an omnivore or I eat whatever, there's calcium everywhere, naturally occurring, bioavailable calcium, then why on earth would you need to add calcium to the foodstuffs over and over again, to all the foodstuffs? Why would you have that? You see, why would you have that mentally deranged need to add calcium to every single thing more and more and more? It sounds strange, in my opinion, and it's led me on a path. You know, the fruits are high in calcium, vegetables are high in calcium in different degrees. Your body regulates the calcium levels as best as it can, you know, unless it's overloaded. Just like if you eat, you know, too much food daily and your body starts accumulating excess calories as fat, you can't expect your body to get rid of that fat on its own. You have to consciously work at it. So it's the same with calcium. If you're oversaturating your body with a certain crystal solution, in this case calcium, then you're going to overload your body's ability to regulate it. That's one of the things. So why would they want to overload us with calcium? And we'll get to that in a second, but here, just to give you some perspective, all right? So we're going to go through one of the biggest grocers, the biggest grocer in the world, and you're looking for cookies, good old cookies, okay? Put your hand in the cookie jar and get yourself some cookies. Serve the kids some cookies. Load it with calcium. Just completely load it because the dough and the flour is loaded with calcium. Candy, chocolate, load it with calcium. Add it, and this is all added calcium purposefully. Why? There's several reasons, but I'm gonna get into some of the darker ones. All right, chips, man, chips and salsa, loaded with calcium. The salsa is not loaded with calcium. It's gonna have bioavailable, naturally occurring calcium, but has all added calcium. Why do they have that need? And they sell you a bill of goods. They tell you, hey, calcium's good for you, and this and that and the other's good for you. Like, so they have our best interest in mind all of a sudden, and everything else they're trying to screw you over right and left. But no, on this one they have their best interest in you. And I've sat next to CEOs of Coca-Cola recently, one guy, and I was talking to the guy for a long time, and great guy. A lot of these people don't even know. So I'm getting ahead of myself. They don't even know how toxic added calcium is. And again, I'm going to point you to, I've already covered how calcium carbonate is infused into the drink supply. So it's in all the drinks that have bubbles. It's going to be in the seltzers, in the beers, champagnes. It's going to be in Coca-Colas, in the sodas, in the mineral waters, even energy drinks, all kinds of soft drinks. So I've covered that on that video, how to turn people into stone. Be sure to check it out. Anyway, let me continue. Lasagna, it's going to have cheese, it's going to have dough, it's full of calcium. All canned goods, they use calcium chloride, which is actually one of the worst kinds of calcium. Calcium chloride is used in pickles, and it's used in cheeses. And guess what? It's a coagulant. It coagulates cement. Guess what it's going to do to your blood if you're taking a coagulant substance? Okay, calcium chloride is the widest used and best accelerant for cement and concrete, right? And you're taking this, all right? You're taking this whenever you eat cheese. Look at this. Calcium chloride cheese. Calcium chloride uses in cheese making. So back to here. Velveeta, cheese, calcium chloride. Canned goods. Here, if you're going to have any sort of dairy, you're going to have calcium added. Not natural, because you've probably never even had milk in your life. All you have is that gunk, of chemicals that they mistakenly call milk, but it's not really milk. All right, just like almond milk has, like less than 10% almonds. So if you're gonna have hummus, it may have added calcium or not. It's gonna have naturally occurring calcium. Just look at the color. So the colors that give away, but you can mask the color. You can put a colorant in there. If you're gonna have pretzels, calcium. Chick-fil-A dipping sauce, it's really good. I don't know what's in it. You'd have to find out. Onion rings, the stuff that you have around the rings, around the onions, is gonna have calcium. Wieners would be good if you eat meat. The buns, not. So I would skip the buns, but that's just my opinion. And you can have the wieners with some salsa if you're a meat eater. Here, let's continue. Crema, cream, white cream, full of added calcium. Canned goods full of added calcium. So, anywhere you look, here, goldfish, all calcium. Lunchables, you think you're gonna give something good to your kids? You're giving them calcium. Calcium for your arteries, calcium for your brain, which is not really good. And I'm gonna show you the relationships here between even cancer, even Alzheimer's, cardiovascular disease. I already covered in that previous video. And guess what? It's also related to some of the top 10, I think 6 or 7 out of 10 of the primary causes of death, including diabetes, including kidney stones. So chew on that. Chewy Quaker bars, sparkling. This is all calcium. Chips, all calcium. So look at this grilled cheese, which I used to like ingest like there was no tomorrow. Well, guess what? There's not going to be a tomorrow for me if I keep doing that. So I've changed my diet drastically. And I'll tell you more about that later. Okay? Whoopie pies, all added calcium. Chicken thighs, this would be a naturally occurring calcium source. More than enough. Okay? Bread and bakery, out the window, in my opinion. Meat and seafood, just fine. Produce, just fine. Dairy and eggs, again, this is not real. This is just fake gunk, chemicals. And they have added calcium. I scream, you scream. We all scream because we're freaking dying from added calcium. Doritos, calcium. Coca-Cola, I told you what it means. It means demonic possession in Sanskrit. Watch that other video, please. So you're going to take a drink that's called demonic possession, like figure it out. Get your head straight. Breakfast and cereal, all calcium. Think again of are you gonna give arsenic to your kids? No, right? So why would you give them anything that has added calcium? All these Insta coffees, all this, unless you see the coffee bean, it's probably gonna have added calcium. All these processed foods, pretty much, unless you see the grape, it's fine. If you don't see it, if you're gonna drink a tea, you better see the tea leaves. If you're gonna drink the coffee again, you better see the whole grains, okay? And then you ground them, you grind them, okay? So that's my whole point. My whole point is this: that the foods that the Creator, the Almighty makes, those are the ones that we need to be eating. Not these, which maybe they have their best intentions in mind, but remember, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Maybe they don't. A lot of people won't even notice. It's just, it rolls down the hill, It rolls down the hill because just the very, at the top, the very evil ones just design these things like pasta or flour making and tortillas, and we're going to add calcium or limestone into it. Like, why? There's no need. There's no dietary need to add anything because I've already shown you that the naturally occurring calcium is all the foods that we eat are designed by the Creator and they're full of calcium. So there's completely no need to keep adding more and more and more and oversaturate your body with it. You see what I'm saying? So if you think you're eating clean, quote unquote, what the heck does that mean? If you think you're eating organic and you're good, you're not good. That's a red herring. It's a straw man argument. They're deluding you with something else. If you think you're eating vegetarian and you're good, you're not good because you're eating bread. Even if you're eating vegan bread, you're screwed because you're eating the calcium. And that's how they want to get you. It's the main reason. It's the number one. And I'm going to show that to you here in a minute. Okay? All these pastries, they're full of calcium. If you think you're eating non-GMO, you're staying away from non-GMOs, you're still going to get God. Okay? You're going to get done. If you're eating paleo, you're still going to get done. If you're eating vegan, guess what? A lot of the vegan things have added calcium, like the tofu and this and that and the other. All right? So if you're eating any sort of milkshakes or any sort of protein powders, all these powders, they use calcium as a filler, right? Because it's really cheap. You just take a bunch of limestone and you grind them up and you have it. And it's dirt cheap, literally dirt cheap. So what to do, keys to the truth. Then why should I eat? Then my friends tell me, hey, you're telling me not to eat anything. Then what do I eat? What do you eat? All right. So I don't need this processed stuff. And I don't mean these companies any sort of ill will, if they're doing it unconsciously, but they're still polluting you and contaminating you and giving you an early grave. So I would eat the stuff like these oranges or clementines that were made by the Almighty. And if you're gonna make the pie, you can still have the pie. The pie itself is not bad. What's bad is all the ingredients in it. So, Doug, he said truth. You're saying the same thing. No, I'm not saying the same thing. If you take the flour, if you take the almonds and you make the flour at home, and you make the rest of the stuff at home, and then you make that pie, then you're good to go, right? It's still gonna have a lot of calcium, but it's gonna be naturally occurring calcium, because almonds are a great source of calcium if you need it naturally, and so is for example coconuts, righty? So there's just a bunch of stuff that you can eat, but the main takeaway here is that we've been sold all these different diets, and they're just complete delusions. They're just to keep you. It's Project Mockingbird. It's to give you all these different theories so you don't find the right one. When did you hear about this calcium stuff? I've never heard about it until now that I'm researching. Cheese, it's gonna kill you. Milk, it's gonna kill you. There's not even real milk. If you want real milk, go to a farm and get the milk straight from the cow. If you want to pasteurize it, boil it right there and then eat and then drink it. And that's your real milk, right? Eggs have calcium too. They have sulfur as well. That's why they're yellow and white. White is the giveaway for the calcium. The yellow is the sulfur. They're great. I'm not eating them anymore for my personal spiritual reasons, but eggs would be fine if they're real eggs, not the stuff that they give you that they claim it's eggs in a bottle. All this non-dairy milk, you think, oh, I'm going to stay away from dairy. It's not the dairy that's killing you. It's the added calcium. Okay, you see my point? Ice cream would be fine, and cottage cheese. If you can make the cheese at home, get the milk from a cow, make the cheese at home, make the ghee butter at home, then you're good. You see? Other than that, you're deluding yourself, right? Mayonnaise. I mean, good God, make it at home and skip any of the added calcium. Tortillas, full calcium. Bread, just a death wish, all right? So it's come to the point where I cringe every time I see somebody downing a soft drink or downing one of these, which I used to take daily, all right? I'm not no holier than thou character over here. I'm giving it to you raw, and I'm giving it to you real. I used to down these things, and my blood pressure was over 140. I could never get it down below 140. My triglycerides were through the roof. So was my lipids and my what's the other one? Cholesterol. You're gonna die tomorrow, buddy. So I got a calcium score, which I've talked about. I got a calcium score last month, and it was over 465. If you're over 5, you have risk of a heart attack. If you're over 100, you're pretty much dead. So I'm working hard at lowering that, and guess what? After a month of not eating anything with added calcium, and also taking in a lot of apple cider vinegar, which destroys calcium. And I'll get to all that at the end. I haven't had the calcium score again, but I've had other things. I had the blood work done, and it came back perfect. I had that electrocardiogram with the stress induced, where you're on the machine and you're walking and then you're running. So I passed with flying colors, and the cardio. So if you need to consult an expert on this, consult an expert. What I'm giving you is just opinion. I'm just giving you my personal story. So nothing more than that. So I go to specialists. So I took the calcium score with that machine that they have, the big CT scan machine, and which is using crystal magic, but that's a different subject. And you could see my heart is full of calcium. So you're gonna die. Keys to the truth. That was a month ago. So I went into immediate mode to get rid of the calcium. This is all full of calcium. The mixed nuts are fine, but the salts they're adding to them would be suspicious. I would like to get the unsalted nuts, and then you might be good. So going back to my personal experience, um, I'm gonna have the calcium score done again next month. Again, under the tutelage of a cardiologist, and see if it's rolled back. But so far, my blood work after a month of not eating any added calcium, just natural calcium, and taking in daily doses of diluted apple cider vinegar with lemon, with lime, and water. Because if you take it direct, you're gonna mess up your teeth. So you take it diluted. My cardio's already through the roof like it never was. My blood pressure's down to 120, which I've never had in over 10 years. And triglycerides are gone. They're back to normal levels. So is the cholesterol. So chew on that. Okay, explain that away. That's just, personally, I can vouch for that. I can show you the results if you need them. You can message me if you want. So pasta. Oh, I'm gonna have a pasta with chicken and broccoli. Broccoli's gonna have calcium, all the calcium you need. The freaking pasta is loaded with added calcium in the flour. Like, why would they need to do that? There's no reason to overload you. So, for example, let's say you have in the morning, you wake up, you have a shake, you have a protein shake loaded with calcium. So that's okay, you're done for the day. No, because then you're gonna have a sandwich around lunchtime, a nice sandwich, clean, with lettuce, tomatoes, whatever you want in it, and the bread's gonna have calcium. That's 2 daily doses already there. And then if you have a big pasta bowl like this for dinner, you've had more than 3, 4, 5 times, depending how much you eat, the daily dosage that your body needs. If you had a soda, if you had a beer, you're giving yourself an early grave, an early death, an untimely death. You see my point? So why do they care? Why do they want us prematurely dead? They want you sick and tired and, a slave to the system. But, oh well, guys, I'll get more into the why and how here in the next video. Thank you. And the Almighty bless you and protect you and open your eyes.